Hello world and welcome to HaXeZ. In today's video we're doing some more PortSwigger and we're looking at SQL injection attack listing the database contents on Oracle. So if we head over to the lab and have a look what the requirements are. Lab SQL injection attack listing the database contents on Oracle. This lab contains an SQL injection vulnerability in the product category filter. The results from the query are returned in the application's response so you can use a union attack to retrieve data from other tables. The application has a login function and the database contains a table that holds usernames and passwords. You need to determine the name of the table and the columns it contains and then retrieve the contents of the table to attain the username and passwords of all users. To solve the lab, log in as administrator. So it's like the one we did previously where it was retrieving database contents from non-Oracle databases. So this one is going to be the same sort of thing, just with a different syntax. So if we access the lab and we turn intercept on in a moment once it's loaded. Fantastic. So let's throw intercept on. Let's click on clothing and shoe accessories and go back to the request and send it to repeater. So what you can see here is you have your filter, your category, your parameter, and we need to test whether it's vulnerable to SQLI. So let's go ahead and send a single quotation mark. We should get a 500 error message as expected. So what we need to do now is we need to determine how many columns we have available for us to dump data into, because if you don't include the right amount of columns in your request, you'll get a 500 error. So in order to do this, we can assume it's going to be two. You have one with bold text, one with clean text, so we can just do plus union plus select plus null hyphen hyphen. If we send that, we should get a 200 message. We got a 500 message. So there's either something wrong with my syntax or I'm not doing the command right. It's Oracle, isn't it? So I think we need to do plus from plus dual dual hyphen hyphen. Let's try that. Okay, we got a 200 HTTP code come back suggesting that our structure of our syntax is correct. It completes the query. So now we know what we're working with. We can use these two columns provided they both support text, which we can assume that they do. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. So we want to do test single quotation mark comment in there, and then we want to do test again and send that. If we get a 200 OK, then we know both columns support text data and we can continue with our query. So what we need to do now is we need to query the table names from the default sort of place. As with the MySQL ones, it was information schema.tables, but in Oracle it's called all tables. So we will do union select, and then in the first column we will put table underscore name. In the second column we will change that back to null, and then we will say from all underscore tables and then comment it out. And if we send that over, we should get a 200 OK message. We can try and render it, and you can see there we get all our tables. So we need to find a table for the usernames. Brilliant. So you can see there we have a number of potential targets for the query. So we got users, users. So there does appear to be a few tables. So we can query each one of those and try to get the column names to see which one most suits our query. So if we just make a note of these, just so we don't have to keep running the same query, and we pop back to burp, and then we look at querying that specific querying the columns in that specific table. So we need to do union select column, then we keep the null there because we're not putting any data in the null in that secondary column, and then we're going to say from or tab underscore columns, and then we need to tell it which one we want to look at. So we're going to say where table underscore name equals, and then we do single quotation marks, and we'll start off with this user here, and we'll see what information that gives us, and then single quotation mark and send. So if we scroll down, we get a 500 internal server error, so there's something wrong with my syntax here. Okay, so it looks like I didn't complete column underscore name, so if we just send that, we get a 200 OK, and we have, let's see, got a password and username. So it looks like we got lucky and it was the first table we found. So let's grab that. Let's grab that. And now we can modify our query so that we can try to retrieve the contents of these columns from that table and return it back in the response of the application. And in order to do that, we need to do union select, and then we want the password name. So we need to put it in quotation marks. I don't think so. Right, so in order to do this properly, let's get the username in there first. So we're going to get the username and pop it in there. Then we're going to get the password. So these are the names of the columns. Username, and then we're going to do passwords. And no, we want to delete that, get rid of the null because we're using both columns. And then we're going to comma, and then we're going to do plus from, and then we want the usernames table, and that should be it. 500 internal server error. Okay, as you can see, I had some issues in my syntax there, so I had a comma there when it didn't need one, and I also didn't have a plus before the password. So syntax can be quite pedantic. You need to make sure you get it right, otherwise you get a 500 error. But yeah, if we grab the response now, copy that, turn our proxy off, jump into our browser, we should be able to scroll down and see the administrator username and password. So if we grab that, throw it into our document, head up to the My Account section, and all we need to do is grab that, and log in. And that should complete the lab. I hope this helped you out. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a thumbs up, maybe leave a comment, and please subscribe. Kind regards.